It's a privilege to be standing here today at the start of a new ministry and looking forward to the future here in Tiptree and Kelvedon. Just a little bit more information adding to what Gil said earlier. I didn't actually spend all my time down in the Falkland Islands. I was there for 4.5 months, but I was actually a chaplain. I was a Church of Scotland chaplain in the Air Force for 4 years, and that also included time in Scotland at Lookers, in Shropshire, and also in Italy covering the Bosnian conflict. My journey towards this pastorate started at the end of last year. As was mentioned earlier, I've been in Sevenoaks for a number of years. I was inducted there in 2004, initially to 2 separate churches, but with the aim of bringing the 2 churches together as one. The 2 churches were only half a mile apart, and of course were originally there because they came from the separate congregational and Presbyterian traditions that make up most of the URC. A lot was done to bring the 2 churches together. They were united in name, but and a lot of new initiatives in mission and in worship were begun, and there was a lot achieved in the 8 years that I was there. But ultimately we came down to the decision over buildings, and that proved to be a decision too far for some, and sadly we were not able to reach agreement, and it was at that point it felt right under God to move on. We had a window when we were potentially looking at moving on anyway. We have a son who's away from home, living in Surrey, and our daughter was just about to go off to university. Many of you met her when I came to preach with you in July. She's now happily settled in Liverpool. And I finished my ministry in Sevenoaks at Christmas, on Christmas Day, and then moved on to a temporary appointment, which Gil hinted at, in Thamesmead, which was a multi-ethnic congregation, a very, very different experience. That was a URC Methodist Church of England ecumenical partnership. And I enjoyed the ministry there, but it had its frustrations too. And one of the frustrations of interim ministry is that you see opportunities to do things, but you don't have the time to do them because you're not there for long enough. And also you have to be sure that what you're doing is able to be continued. It's not just starting something that can't be continued. But it was an interesting experience, a complete contrast from Sevenoaks. Having a congregation where there's hardly anybody in the congregation when you start the service, and the church is nearly full when you finish. The last people coming in 3/4 way through the service. But it was an enjoyable experience, and I learned a lot from that. And the people were very loving and very welcoming to me. I also, during the last 9 months, have been doing a bit of a lay training role, particularly of lay preachers and assessing preachers lay preachers in their assignments. So that time at Thamesmead was also a time of starting to seek a new permanent move, a new pastorate. And over the past first 6 months of this year, I looked at a number of profiles, visited 1 or 2 places, and then I think it was in May, the moderators in their wisdom suggested I looked at Kelvedon and Tiptree. And when I saw the profile, there were things that excited me and stirred me. I could sense that God's Spirit was at work, not only in the congregations, but just encouraging me to have a look, which is what I did, an initial exploration of whether this may be the right place that God wants me to be for future ministry. And after an initial visit, that was followed up by meeting with the elders of the congregation, the vacancy committee of the two congregations, and then I was invited to preach with a view, which I accepted, and with the unanimous call, I felt that was God's endorsement on my coming to you and to be sealed today by my induction. I look forward to the future. I look forward to working with you and for you. I look forward to what God's going to do amongst us. From what I've heard and what I've read and what I've seen so far, I think both churches are looking for new beginnings. And there's a great deal of vision and prayer behind this day and what lies ahead. And I look forward with anticipation what God's going to do amongst us. It's very different from the places I've been. Every church I've been in has been different from the others, from the next one. So I don't come with any clear answers as to what we'll be doing. But I hope in the months to come, under God, we will prayerfully explore where He wants to lead us. And I look forward to sharing in ministry amongst you. And thank you for calling me.